to the same place purposely for the rallies of other candidates. And I noticed when the political parties held the rally, they had, well, your crowd was as big as theirs, but theirs was, well, better organized. They would come in banners, streamers, uniforms, etc. You only had, I think they were using light bulbs in your, on your stage. It looked like one of the 1950 rallies, you know, which I used to cover during the time of Garcia Macapagal, etc. And I was sort of saying, you know, it doesn't look as if she's going to make waves. And yet, in those areas, you know, I understand you did very well in the Calabar zone, you did very well in Laguna, Quezon, where I also watched these rallies. These are areas where, you know, the governor is LDP, the congressman is the mayors belong to the NP or LP. And yet you did very well.
And in one of our last rallies, Louis, matutuwa kang makinig, may rally kami sa Sampaloc na ang aming plataforma was made of second-hand plywood and boards, kaya nahulog sa butas si June Magsaysay na kandidato naming pagka-vice-presidente, and he suffered a superficial flesh wound as a result. Dahilan nga sa wala nga kaming perang pambili ng bago man lang ng mga kahoy para sa aming mga entablado. Ganun pa man nanalo tayo, hindi lamang sa mga syudad o sa mga highly urbanized areas, sa mga lungsod, pati na sa countryside. Malaala ninyo, merong nationwide presidential survey ang CNN Radio Veritas through its radio network. And they called it Boses ng Nayon. It was focused only on the countryside and on the rural areas. And I was also #1 there by an even wider margin than I have so far maintained in the surveys concentrated on the urban areas. That is why those doomsayers who are saying pag dumating na ang resulta galing sa rural areas ay mawawala na itong pangunguna ni Miriam sa survey, they're clutching at straws because the empirical data already strongly supports the proposition that when the rural votes come in, my margin will grow even wider. So I just don't see how they are going to create their own reality at this point.
Okay, we'll take a break for a few reminders.
It's from Adeluz. Something special for all every weekday afternoon throughout the Philippines and the Southeast Asian region via the GMA Rainbow Satellite.
Okay, meron pong mga tanong pati sa akin. I'm going to let the questions go through because we only have about 14 minutes left. Cherub Mercado, Balagtas, Bulacan. I read the article, Sino si Miriam Santiago, and it said, Ms. Santiago has been paying you, Louis Beltran, 50,000 a month to speak, publicize good words of health. How true is this? Eh kung sasabihin ko ako, tatanungin nyo, pag dininay ko, eh it's up to you to decide. Ang masasabi ko lang, the day she pays 50,000 to anybody, itapal nyo sa patay, mabubuhay. George Season, Makati, Beltran, did you ever imagine at the time you interviewed Miriam and Erap that one day they will become president and vice president? Sikreto ko yan. No, I didn't. At that point in time, the reason for the Miriam Erap interview was because people kept saying it was the dream team. I didn't realize that, at least as far as the counting is concerned, that was going to be the lead team. Okay, we have a lot of questions here. I'd like to give them a chance naman to be able to ask you directly. Attorney Sancho Almeda, Laguna, will you get the best and the brightest to help you in carving a new future for the Philippines? Will you form a scout team to look for these talents?
Yes, I have to form a committee whose only function will be executive search. And my behavioral pattern in this respect has already been displayed when I was Immigration Commissioner. I gathered as my associate commissioners and part of my executive staff people whom I did not even know very well personally, but who had very high standing in their respective professions.
You know, I noticed very few people remembered your senatorial team, no? But I was looking at the curriculum vitae of your senatorial team, and I was amazed because so many of them are cum laudes, are honor graduates of law. They have all kinds of degrees. So I would presume even that you applied a certain standard to.
Exactly, yes. I've always looked at the biodata or the CV, the curriculum vitae, of the person plus his track record.
Okay, Antoinette Rodolfo, Quezon City, what can you say about the comment that your administration will be another dictatorial government?
Lahat ng ito, mga kuro-kuro. Sana naman ay tingnan ang ginawa ko nung nakalipas para malaman natin kung anong gagawin ko sa kinabukasan. Huwag sana tayo magtanim ng mga kuro-kuro sa isip ng ating mga mamamayan na hindi naman totoo dahil maliwanag na sinusubukan lamang natin na guluhin ang sitwasyon. Huwag sana ganon.
Gloria Manalang, San Juan, if you become the next president of the country, will you allow the cardinal to dictate to you? Just like the... Oh, huwag na natin idagdag din just like... Will you allow the cardinal to dictate to you?
Cardinal Sin is one of the most highly trained and intellectual religious leaders in the country. May doctorate siya galing sa Rome, if I remember, just like many archbishops and bishops. And he knows that because it would be totally inappropriate and possibly ineffective, I believe that even he himself has no aptitude for this direction. So there is no basis for that fear expressed. And certainly I would resist it if it came from any religious quarter, because our Constitution provides the separation of church and state shall be inviolable.
Okay, your campaign has been geared on graft and solving the problem of graft and corruption, and most of it, I think, is with respect to the executive department. There's an interesting question. Irvin Domingo Jr., Panikitarlac, in case you get elected, paano ninyo matatanggal ang graft and corruption sa Kongreso, sa Senado, at sa mga munisipyo?
In case you get elected, I've already been elected by the Filipino people.
No, the COMELEC says you shouldn't do that. No, well, you're not proclaiming yourself. I think you're just joking again.
Ang sinasabi lang natin, 3 araw na akong nangunguna.
Okay. 3 araw ka na nangunguna. Anyway,
That's right.
how will you solve the problem of graft and corruption in Congress, Senate, at municipal level?
Unang-una, we must beware of the danger of generalization. Hindi natin sinasabi na lahat ng tao sa Pilipinas corrupt para ba tayong nag-imbento ng honesty in public service para mang tayo lamang ang tapat. Ang nakakarami ng mga empleyado sa gobyerno ay talagang matitino't tapat na mga tao. Yun lang kung minsan nasasapawan sila ng mga maiingay. At ganon din sa Kongreso. In fact, at this point, Louis, I would like to emphasize that I have already taken certain initiatives of a legislative direction. Lumapit na ako kusa sa mga leader ng Kongreso at sa mga tingin ko ay magiging incoming na kasapi ng Kongreso. Kako sa kanila kung ano man mga pagkukulang ko, sana ipagpasensya na ninyo ako dahil tapos na ang oras ng kampanya. Sana turuan na lang ninyo ako kung paano tayo makikipagtulungan para sana'y makapagbigay kaagad ng serbisyo sa publiko.
So, sa ngayon pa lang, nakikipag-meeting ka na sa mga leaders ng Congress?
That's right.
And congressmen-elect and senators-elect?
They have been very receptive and very supportive. And so, the next surprise that we will deliver to the country, apart from the victory of a non-politician like myself, which will be a first in Philippine electoral history, the next surprise will be the smooth working relationship between the executive and the legislative branches of government.
Okay, that's if you get elected. Let's keep saying that because Mrs. Eusebio Tondo, ano ang magagawa ninyo para mabawasan ang utang ng Pilipinas?
Hindi problema ang utang, maski yung utang sa mga ibayong bansa. Kasi yung ating utang na sinasabi, merong local component, merong foreign component, and most people are worried about the foreign debt, which now stands in round figures at about $30 billion US, about 29.7 billion. It fluctuates from month to month. Kasi halimbawa, sa South Korea, $40 milyong ang kanilang utang, pero hindi sila ng problema dahil ang exports nila were $60 billion US. Kaya madaling bigyang lunas iyan. All we have to do is promote our export-oriented industry so that we can effect a turnaround in our trade position. Kaya hindi problema ang utang sa ibang bansa, mientras na yung ating exports ay mas malaki ng sa ating foreign debt. Yun lang gawin natin, i-promote lang natin ang mga exports natin.
Okay. Magdalena Odulio Retiro Laloma, totoo ba ang sinabi mo sa kampanya na bababaan mo ang tuition fees kung manalo ka?
Totoo iyon. Ang sinabi natin, hindi naman na it will be conducted by executive fiat, kung hindi, we will create the proper climate or the environment so that this will become possible.
Okay, Anonymous, if elected president, is it true that you're going to stop sending Filipino entertainers to Japan? If so, what jobs